Hello and welcome to this session. My name is Stella Jones and I'm the Director of Townend Research School based in Sunderland in the North East. This webinar will look at strategies to support high quality interactions through shared reading. All of the resources I'll refer to today can be found on our website and are free to download. On our website, there are also many blogs, resources to do with things like social emotional learning and lots around all aspects of literacy. Before we begin, a little introduction to the EEF and the research schools. The EEF, the Education Endowment Foundation, works to improve academic outcomes for disadvantaged pupils between the ages of 2 and 19. Since they were established in 2011, they work to share knowledge of what works in education by commissioning and analysing educational research. In a nutshell, they want to support settings to effectively put evidence to use in practice. One example is the new ISH, Early Years Toolkit and Evidence Store, and we'll look more at this as we go through this session. The EEF know that in order to have an impact, they have to proactively mobilise evidence if it's to reach busy educators. And one way that they achieve this is through the Research School Network. The network was launched in 2016 and is currently made up of 33 schools, and we are up there in the North East. As a research school, we aim to translate research evidence into tangible practices and processes that support educators, such as yourselves, to use evidence to inform teaching and learning. So this is what we'll cover in this session. We'll set the scene and discuss why interactions are crucial. We'll look at interactive reading and developing oral language through quality interactions, and then just explore some frameworks for sharing books. So we'll now look at why interactions are crucial. So this is a great visual to highlight how everything, including reading and writing, springs or grows from expressive and receptive language. We have expressive and receptive language there as the seed. Then phonological awareness, so the sounds that children hear and can play with. Then phonemic awareness, sounds they can play with to make and break words. Move on to alphabetic knowledge, so the code, the letters they know, which in turn unfurls into encoding the letters and sounds they can write and decoding the sounds they see when they read, leading into whole word recognition, retrieval when they read words at a glance, so they're instantly recognisable. Then onto syllable knowledge, which is also part of phonological awareness, morphology, what they know about word parts. We move on to spelling, why words are spelt the ways that they are. Then we get to the fruits, the vocabulary, background knowledge, comprehension, knowledge of text structures. And then, hopefully, we end up with readers and writers. Receptive language is hidden in their heads. It's only through expressive language that we can see what children understand. Speech and other communication makes the comprehension visible. That is done through the use of vocabulary, so the words that they choose to use and how they put the words together to express their thoughts. Ultimately, if they can't say it, they can't read it or decode it. And if they can't read it or decode it, then they can't write it or encode it. So the DFE reading framework says that language develops through interaction with others. Inevitably, by the time they start school, some children understand more and know more words than others because of the quantity and quality of the interactions they've already had with adults and others. It starts early. It starts before school. It starts in early years. Children who begin school with a poor understanding of language will need considerable support to develop their spoken language, if necessary, throughout their school years. This is why the job that early educators do to develop oral language is of such paramount importance. So this demonstrates that what's done to develop language before they arrive through the school doors is vital. Here are some recent insights taken from the free-to-download Listening to Unheard Children report that was published back in September. The report has found that teachers now estimate that 1.9 million children are behind with their talking and/or understanding of words, which is the highest number ever recorded. I'll just give you a moment to look at the diagram. So in a nutshell, children who have speech and language challenges at school are more likely to fail in core subjects, to be lonely, to have mental health problems, to end up in the criminal justice system, and they're more likely to be unemployed as an adult. So it's a pretty bleak picture, and it makes clear just how crucial developing spoken language is in the early years. Oral language development is often seen as something that naturally happens and naturally grows and evolves, but early years professionals know better than any that this is absolutely not the case. Oral language needs to be intentionally and explicitly taught, prioritised and practiced for the stark reasons that we can see there on the screen. So a child's core language acquisition occurs between 1 and 4 years old, with children acquiring basic phonology, syntax, and vocabulary during this period. Evidence indicates that success in literacy relies on the secure development of language, and that these skills are amongst the best predictors of educational success. Right, so receptive language emerges as children understand what's said to them, so both verbally and non-verbally, before they can talk, understanding more as they grow. So I invite you just to look at this trajectory, especially the red and the green ones that focus more on interactions, which is, the theme of this webinar. So these learning trajectories help us to observe children's progress in language and communication. They provide us with language and ideas for documenting children's learning and development, and for our conversations with families, colleagues about children's progress. The trajectory is not a checklist. They must go alongside our professional knowledge and judgment in determining how each child may demonstrate progress along each trajectory and how best to support them. We'll now look at a few tips for creating opportunities to support children's receptive language. Okay, so the first one is to vary the words, the tones and the gestures that we use when talking to children to make language interesting at an age-appropriate level. To recognise that children may understand more than they can say, especially children from non-English speaking backgrounds. For us to wonder aloud or narrate what we're seeing or doing to help children make connections between words and actions. This modelling will support their expressive language later on. And then to encourage families to celebrate and extend children's emerging understanding. If they have English as an additional language, encourage using their home language as a foundation for learning. These are all practical ways to develop receptive language, and they can also be applied to when we share books with children. So here's a trajectory for expressive language. This includes the ability to make purposeful sounds, words and gestures to convey their thoughts, their feelings and ideas to others. Again, the red and green strands are more pertinent to interactions. So again, we'll just go through a few tips for creating opportunities to support children's receptive language through our interactions and shared reading times. So experiment playfully with sentences, with syllables or sounds. So for example, when reading poems or rhyming stories, help children recognise the building blocks of speech. We can use a range of age-appropriate strategies to sustain two-way serve-return interactions, such as asking further questions or open-ended questions. We can repeat, extend, and rephrase children's words and sentences, modelling accurate expression and reinforcing their successful attempts. And we can encourage children to themselves wonder aloud, to hypothesize and predict using any language they have to express and extend their thinking. So you will have modelled this in the developing receptive language stage. So the EF talk about effective environments for supporting oral language, and there's evidence that the rate at which children develop language is sensitive to the amount of input that they receive from adults and peers around them, and that the quality of this input is likely to be more important than the quantity. Ensuring all children experience effective language support requires a considered approach appropriate to the needs of individual children, as well as staff training for good implementation. Carefully considering the nature and quality of early reading, language and vocabulary interactions is where we, as educators, can maximise our impact. Right, so on to interactive reading. Research shows that one of the most powerful ways of developing early communication and language is through interactive reading. Engaging in interactive reading provides numerous advantages for children, fostering their communication and language proficiency, enhancing cognitive abilities, promoting early literacy achievements, and through strengthening their connections with adults. At the heart of interactive reading lies the deliberate facilitation of active engagement by adults with children. It transcends the traditional notion of reading to a passive audience. Instead, it necessitates a fundamental shift for educators and a reconfiguration of that power dynamic between adult and child. As children actively participate and interact with educators, their communication and their language skills flourish. So interactive reading is one way to develop early literacy and communication and language, and interactive reading appears in both key themes of the EEF's evidence store. So the adult strategically employs deliberate actions during shared reading sessions. This can be done one-to-one with a child or within a group, and aims to prompt children to actively participate in reading the book. Active participation, not just adult-led. So this involvement may include engaging with images, text, or asking thought-provoking questions. Interactive reading serves as an approach that fosters not only communication and language development, but also early literacy achievements. So it's an opportunity to practice the art of conversation, of turn-taking, serve and return interactions. Just some great books. So The World of Rachel Bright and Jim Field are great for interactive reading. They rhyme and contain some great messages. For example, The Lion Inside is a story about confidence, self-esteem, and a shy little mouse who sets out on a journey to find his roar. The Squirrels Who Squabbled is all about two greedy squirrels who learn in the end to share. And then The Way Home for Wolf is about friendship and how it's okay to need help. Of course, there are so many great books out there to choose from. And just to highlight text choice, page 5 in another of our free booklets, again available on our website, offers some tips to consider when choosing books to share and to read aloud. So choosing interesting and relevant texts that pupils are motivated to read and understand is an important consideration. Text choice really does matter. Okay, so there's a free guide and poster version that you can locate on our website. Interactive reading entails a dynamic dialogue about the book. Conversations play a pivotal role in language development, offering children opportunities to practice language and receive valuable feedback from adults, emphasising dialogue with children rather than simply talking to them. The peer and clear approach fosters social, responsive and expansive conversations. Right, so every interaction we have with a child is an intervention. Successful practices usually involve spoken interaction between the reader and the child that go beyond the text in the book. The more the child participates or responds, the more their oral language skills develop. So successful interactive reading tends to involve the adult offering a prompt to encourage interactions, and then prompting is the act of drawing attention to something related to the book being read that encourages a response from the child, such as asking questions or allowing children to complete the sentence. So PEER is a useful framework to help structure adults' input, and it stands for prompt, evaluate, expand, and repeat. Prompt the child to say something about the book. Evaluate their response, so acknowledge the acceptability or the quality of the response. Expand and scaffold their response by rephrasing, adding information to it, or expanding it with vocabulary. And then repeat the prompt to help them to learn from that expansion. Here we'll just look at an example scenario. So we could be sharing a book with some children, point out a picture and prompt, what animals can we see? So one of the children might respond, a zebra. We might then evaluate. So good job, I'm so pleased you remembered its name. The adult might then expand. So it's a black and white striped zebra. We then may encourage the children to repeat. So can you say that? It's a black and white striped zebra. And then we'd hope the child can echo back. And then talking of echoes, the book that we're going to walk through today is The Gecko and the Echo. And it's a story about a flamboyant little gecko who discovers that friendship means so much more than fame. Because when you treat the world with love, then love will come echoing back. So I'm just going to do a walkthrough of some of the pages from the book and how we might use PEER and CLEAR. Obviously, these strategies can be used with any book. It just so happens that this is one of my favorites at the moment. Okay, so this is an example scenario. So we're sharing the first page in the book, and I might prompt the children, what animals can you see? So there's lots there. Child is very likely then to say birds because they're in the centre of the picture. So I might evaluate. Well spotted, I can see 3 birds, 3 parrots. I might count them, 1, 2, 3. So the adult then might expand. The parrots have green wings and shiny red beaks. I might then encourage the child or the children to repeat. Okay, let's say that together. The parrots have green wings and shiny red beaks. Book-related talk introduces children to language that they might not hear in ordinary conversation, especially the vocabulary of the book itself. So again, just to practice using PEER, I might prompt the children, how are the other geckos feeling? Look at their faces. What do you notice? Their reply might be, they look bored. The adult could evaluate. I agree, they really do. Poor things. The adult might then expand. So the geckos, they look grumpy, bored and fed up with Goldie. And then I'd encourage the children to repeat. So let's say that together, children. The geckos look grumpy, bored and fed up with Goldie. We could do some of the additional suggested activities here. We could use action and act out the words grumpy and bored. So show me a grumpy face. Show me what you do when you're bored. I yawn. Show me how you are when you fed up. We could make connections to times that they were grumpy, when they were fed up, or when they were bored. So there are 5 types of prompts that can be used as part of the PEER sequence. So CLEAR, also known as crowd, can be used in addition to PEER. Again, it just helps us to structure our adult input. We'll have a look at these in relation to the story in a moment. I've also shared some additional ideas for Peer and Clear. So book talk. This is involving all and gives a sense of belonging and relatedness, as children know they have a voice and that their opinions matter. We have making connections. So children love talking from their own perspective and about their own lived experience because it's meaningful and they have a lot of knowledge about it. Action. Acting out the verbs or the nouns in the story is a great way to expand their vocabulary and brings the words to life. It gives them real meaning in context. Then there's predict it. And prediction is useful because it causes children to pay close attention to the book because successful predictions require higher level processing while reading or listening. And it's a really good indication of good comprehension. Experience it. So this allows children to use their imagination, but also draws on experience that they've had previously. And then we've got let's say. Again, this frees up imagination and helps children to develop empathy and perspective taking. So as you read the story, and especially after repeated readings of stories, we can ask children to call out. So this actively involves everyone in the telling of the story. So all children, all adults are participating together. So for a call out, you simply just leave a blank at the end of a sentence for the children to fill. So this book has a rhyming pattern and is perfect for call out. So for example, then one fateful night when crickets were chirping, Goldie tried to make a tune out of burping. The others decided this was the last straw. They just couldn't take Goldie's gifts anymore. Because the book is about an echo, it's fun to ask the children to be the echo and echo back the rhymes. This will help to cement their understanding of what an echo is. Then one fateful night when the crickets were chirping, and then they echo chirping, chirping, chirping. So I think this is a really good page to avoid the action strategy. We don't want a particular verb being acted out. Saying that, chirping is a good one for them to act out. So this is where we can encourage children to make links between books and their own life experiences. So we can make connections with their personal values, emotions, relationships, and lived real life experience. So it's that text to themselves. We can also make links to other texts, to genres and authors, so text to text. And then we can make links to facts, general knowledge, the real world, worldly knowledge, so films watched, real life issues, the news, and we call that text to world. So we can make links text to self, text to text, text to world. This could be an opportunity to talk about times when maybe they have needed to be on their own. Hopefully, they won't make links about a friend or family member who likes to free a burp. So express is where we can encourage children to voice their opinions. So children come to realise that their thoughts, their ideas and preferences, their opinions are likely to be different to other people's, and it's okay to not agree. That it's okay because they are valued. It lets children know that it's okay to dislike a book or find a character annoying. Book talk helps them to do this. We can prompt them to voice their likes, dislikes, their feelings, their questions, or to ask anything that they don't really understand. So ask is where we can prompt or probe questions with discussions. So this can also be reversed and children can ask their own questions about the text or the picture. Experience it would fit well with this picture and the plot point in the story. So the children could place themselves amongst the partying geckos that you can see there on the rock, or they could be the rainbow looking down on them, and they could say what they see, what they feel, what they hear, what they smell, what they taste. So this is a great activity for developing vocabulary. This might then loop back around to the peer part of the framework. For example, we might prompt the children. So imagine you're one of the geckos. What can you hear? The child might reply, laughing and singing. The adult would then evaluate, well, yes, it looks rather noisy. The adult might expand. The geckos are laughing and singing merrily. The adult encourages the children to repeat. Let's say that together. The geckos are laughing and singing merrily. So recall is where we can make comparisons between other books that we have shared with our children, or even recall things about the beginning of the story. So we could ask them, how was Goldie at the start of the book? Did he have friends? How did he treat the others? Look at him now. How is Goldie different? We might zoom in on the characters' faces and compare them with earlier. So spot the difference from before when they looked grumpy, bored, and fed up with Goldie. So hopefully Peer and Clear and the additional strategies will be useful. As children get used to them, they will initiate the conversations themselves. Of course, we don't have to do all of these things on every page. Children thrive on familiarity and repetition, and they love to hear books read time and time again. So the strategies can be dripped in with each new reading. So through those repeated encounters, they are learning the vocabulary, they're learning about life, emotions, people, and places. The frequency and depth of conversations children engage in with both adults and peers within a language-rich setting are paramount. As practitioners, we can significantly enhance children's language development by actively commenting on their interests and their activities, reinforcing their speech with new vocabulary, encouraging children to share their thoughts with guidance and modelling from us, employing sensitive questioning techniques that encourage children, that encourage elaboration, that fosters a comfortable environment for utilising a diverse range of vocabulary and language structures. Okay, so through Peer and Clear, I hope that you see that we include a lot of the prompt-based practices that the evidence store advocates. So questioning, so the adult uses open-ended questions to elicit a response from the child and provide an opportunity for them to use language. Recalling of events or experiences, so the adult facilitates that conversation about events that have happened in the past or an event that will happen in the future that connects to the book. Completion, the adult leaving a blank at the end of the sentence for a child to complete. Posing suggestions or problems, so the adult may model language such as, imagine if, I wonder, what would happen if, etc. Imitation. The adult encourages the child to imitate the language that they've just modelled to the child. So the child gets to apply the new knowledge that they've heard. And then just some examples of information-based prompts. So again, Peer and Clear cover these information prompts too. So commenting, where we provide a sentence to articulate an observation. Recapping and reminding, so the adult models using language to summarise the story. This supports the child to connect events and themes within the story. Expanding, so responding to the child in a way that provides additional information. Extending, so the adult imitates a phrase a child has used but adds an additional word or two that could develop the child's language and vocab. Explaining, so the adult provides information to support the child's understanding of the text and the world around them. This could be through words, visuals, actions, gestures, the use of objects, or a combination of these. And then repetition. There are 3 ways to implement repetition. So we could select books where key vocabulary and repeated refrains or phrases are used. We could use prompts to repeat or draw attention to keywords and phrases, or we could reread the book on several occasions to embed understanding and use of the keywords and phrases by the child. So This just rounds everything up. This is what interactive reading is. I'll just give you a moment to read that. And then on the other hand, this is what it isn't. And I just invite you to please spend a moment thinking about the experience of your children during shared interactive reading. So this is from the DFE framework. Becoming a fluent, skilled and attentive reader starts at the earliest stages before children encounter a book for the first time, partly driven by the quality of their parents' talk with them that expands their vocabulary and comprehension. When we have the children in our care, we have loco parentis. We are in the place of the parent. So this quote shows us the privileged role early educators hold in developing readers. This quote sums up this twilight, I think, quite nicely. So children expand their language and vocabulary when they listen to or join in with a story, with rhymes, but an adult talking about the book with them adds particular advantages and benefits. Through shared reading, children learn to focus and share the enjoyment of the story. They learn how stories start and finish and how a plot unravels and is resolved. They learn that books can transport them elsewhere. And let's face it, who doesn't want to be transported here right now? So just back to this quote, becoming a fluent, skilled and attentive reader starts at the earliest stages, before children encounter a book for the first time, partly driven by the quality of their parents' talk with them that expands their vocabulary and comprehension. All talk is useful, especially when directed to the child specifically. For instance, children expand their language and vocabulary when they listen to or join in with a story or with rhymes, but an adult talking about the book with them adds benefits. It's essential that parents, caregivers, educators, teachers invest significant time in nurturing dialogue, focusing on conversation and narrative genres in early childhood. So this is achieved through giving feedback, encouragement, frequent serve and return interactions, real-time modelling, and providing expansions and elaborations every day. So every interaction we have with a child is an intervention. Interactive reading, especially using that peer and clear frameworks, support us to do this really well. So don't forget that all of the resources I've referred to today can be found on our website and are free to download. There are lots that you can see there on PSED, so personal, social and emotional development, including some self-regulation strategies. On our website, there are blogs, resources, etc. So please do take some time to give it a look. Right, so if you have any questions, you can contact us through the X or Twitter platform or email us on info@townendresearch.school. If you'd like to stay in touch and find out about new resources, blogs, opportunities, then please follow us, as I said, on Twitter or X, or sign up using the QR code there to get our termly emails and newsletters. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope it was useful for you in some way.